Hello and welcome to the show. My name's Sam with Philosophy Tree. In our first episode last week, What is Philosophy?, we touched briefly on metaphysics as one of the four dominant areas of study in contemporary philosophy. And so this week we're going to expand further on that. We're going to first of all define metaphysics. We're going to look at some popular metaphysical questions. And lastly, we're going to look at the different responses to these questions. Wikipedia is not known to be the most credible source on the internet, I know that. However, in this case, they do have, I think, the clearest definition, or one of the clearest definitions of what metaphysics is. They say that, quote, metaphysics is a traditional branch of philosophy concerned with explaining the fundamental nature of being and the world that encompasses it. Metaphysics attempts to answer two basic questions: what is ultimately there, and what is it like? So metaphysics, essentially then, is the study of reality. When we ask questions like what is ultimately there, we are asking about what exists in reality. And when we ask questions like what is it like, we are then contemplating the attributes or the characteristics of these things that exist in reality. An important point to make before we move on is that metaphysics is seen as one of the most, if not the most, abstract branches of philosophy. This is not to say it's useless by any means. However, when compared to ethics or politics, it's not seen by as many people as central to human questioning, perhaps. And for philosophers such as Socrates and Confucius, they didn't even bother with it at all. They saw it as pointless, and they focused mainly on ethics, on politics, on trying to find out how to live a better life or how to fashion a better state. The definition of metaphysics has changed considerably over the years as well, whereas now metaphysics is much more existential, focused on existence. Before the times of Socrates, it was considered mainly more of natural philosophy, what would now be called natural science, physics, chemistry, and the like of that. The most popular metaphysical question, hands down, is does God exist? This is a topic we hear debated heavily in our current culture, and it is a question which there are several responses to. If you would answer yes to the question, does God exist, there are two schools of thought which you would presumably fall into. You would either believe in a personal God or an impersonal God. Now, if you believe in a personal God, that is the God proclaimed by religions such as Christianity, Judaism, Islam, etc. You believe that God is concerned with humanity, with human welfare, and that he is carefully planning out the course of events of the universe, the course of history, etc. Now, if you believe in an impersonal God, you believe that the main function of God is not to care about humanity or watch over us or provide an afterlife for us, but simply to create the universe and usher in existence, per se. Now, if you would answer no to the question, does God exist, then you would, of course, be an atheist. You would reject any form of God's involvement in the creation or the government of the universe. And this is a way of thinking that many philosophers have embraced. However, the growing consensus among many philosophers today is one of agnosticism. If you are an agnostic, then you believe that it is unreasonable to claim that God exists, and it is equally unreasonable to claim that God does not exist, because really you can't prove it one way or the other. And this is something many philosophers have realized and embraced, that there really will be no way to prove or disprove God. Another very popular metaphysical question these days is, can we control our own destiny? And we've all probably heard something like this, whether you've heard people say, well, everything happens for a reason, or on the converse side, we all have a choice. If you would agree more with the statement, everything happens for a reason, then you would be a determinist. You would not believe that humans have free will. You would believe that our destiny or our fate is either put in place by some God, or if you are very pessimistic, maybe it's circumstances beyond our control, such as if you're born poor, you're going to die poor, etc. If you would answer yes to the question, you can control your own destiny, and you believe in free will, that everyone has a choice, then you would be a non-determinist. You would believe that, yes, there may be unequal circumstances, but we all have a choice, we all can make choices, we all can act freely. Do we have immortal souls? This is something else which philosophers have diverged greatly over the years. Those who would answer yes to the question, who would affirm that we do have immortal souls, they then would either believe, presumably, in reincarnation, that we would be born again, that our souls would go to some afterlife, a heaven or hell, etc. And even though our bodies may die, our souls are immortal and would live on. Those who would say no, that we don't have immortal souls, they might believe, such as Aristotle, that really this soul that we speak of is only our consciousness and our reasoning, and there's no logical way to say that that'll survive after we die, that we really are just a sophisticated form of animal, and we're going to die like every other animal. How can we know what is real? This is a question which has been debated for literally millennia in both Western and Eastern thought, and there are several different responses to this. First, we have the skeptics, who would say that, well, we cannot know anything is real. We cannot know anything is true. We cannot know anything with 100% absolute certainty, and that's the end of that. We shouldn't even speculate about it. And others would have to agree with this. I mean, really, how can we know anything is real? I guess we can't know with 100% certainty that we aren't just hallucinating right now, or this isn't just a dream. However, others would posit that we can know things with near absolute certainty. We can know things enough to draw conclusions and make judgments. And if you agree more with that line of thinking, you would presumably either fall into the empiricist or the rationalist school. Now, the empiricists argue that we can determine what is real and know what is true through our senses, through our sight, our hearing, all other senses, etc. The argument against this is that how can we rely on our senses? Our senses are not always reliable. We see people with mental illnesses, with dementia, with hallucinations, etc., who their senses are telling them something completely untrue. Now, the rationalist school believes that we can rely more on our reason, our ability to reason and think, more than our senses. And there's an equally valid argument against this, because when we rely on our reason, we reach different conclusions. The majority of people can look at a tree and say that is a tree. But when we rely on our reason, we reach totally different conclusions based on our culture, our upbringing, our values, etc. Thank you all so much for watching and supporting the show. We try to have episodes out on a weekly basis, but in the meantime, you can follow us on Twitter at philosophy_tree and like our page on Facebook at facebook.com/philosophytree. Our new website is up, so you can check that out. And if you have any feedback, you can reach us at any of our social networks or send an email to philosophytreecontact@gmail.com.